welcome everybody. We're going to start today's episode with our special guest, Jimmy Anderson. And the topic today is leadership and creativity are inseparable. Leadership and creativity are inseparable. Those are Jimmy's profound words, and it is so true. And today he's going to be here to inspire us and fire us up to get our imaginations and our immune systems pumped up, because imagination and immune system building are very, very tied into each other. And if you haven't already read my article from this week, it's now being published in Medium, so you can read it there or on my blog. A lot of what we're going to be talking about stems from that article, because being a leader takes having a strong immune system. Being creative builds our immune system. So that's where we're headed with all of this. Each week, we do our best to bring so much love and so much positivity to the table so that everybody leaves here feeling postured. And remember, everybody's sitting up, ears over your shoulders. If your legs are crossed, I invite you to uncross them and ground your feet onto the ground. And just get present in your creative space within inside yourselves. It's really important, everything we're going to be going over today, to know how this innate wisdom that we have inside ourselves to genuinely be our authentic selves. That's when our creativity comes out. That's when we lead with who we are. So why isn't it the top story in the media? Build your immune system, stop COVID. And despite its invisibility, our immune system does more than just fight off bacteria or viruses. It also has a role in regulating our hormones, our endocrine system, our serotonin levels, all of those feel-good hormones. One of the best ways that we can possibly build our immune system is to be creative. And we all know the Dark Ages happened, and what followed the Dark Ages was the Renaissance period. That plague lasted a long time in the Dark Ages, so we ain't seen nothing yet. And the people who survived were those artists and those musicians and the dancers and the people that found love and joy and nurtured and gathered and took care of one another. So although this has been a daunting era, I see, and I think everybody on this call sees, that we are in a Renaissance period right now, and we have a Renaissance man in the house. We have several and Renaissance women, you guys. So without further ado, when we embrace our creative side, we expand beyond what is imaginable. So get ready to get entertained, and get ready to entertain us by whatever you want to put in the chat. And I'm going to first read you Jim Anderson's bio, because it just fires me up just to read it. And then I'm going to ask Jimmy one question, and then he's going to take off, and we're going to have a really fun time. And I really encourage all of you to engage. Jim Anderson was born and raised on a cattle ranch in South Central Alaska. When we talked earlier, we have people on the call today, everywhere from the Philippines to Canada to Hawaii to Wyoming to Seattle, Washington to Washington State. It's incredible. And here's this guy. He was born on this incredible homestead in Alaska, but he lived in various places across America, including Japan. And no matter where he lived, he was involved in the performing arts, and it always made him feel at home. He has a unique and diverse background in both business and the arts, and involved in the arts his entire life. Jimmy is an accomplished musician, actor, voice coach, director, producer, choreographer. He is a 1987 graduate of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, and he has a business management degree from Alaska Pacific University. He has performed in Alaska, Los Angeles, Arizona, South Carolina, and New York City. Jim has directed youth theater and programs for over 30 years, and he's recently introduced a theater arts-based leadership intensive for high school students that is part of the LUPAC initiative that promotes the need for greater child advocacy throughout the nation. Yes. For several years, Jim entered into the corporate world, and he worked in international compliance. Jim is also a corporate consultant, an executive coach, a motivational speaker. You sound like, gosh, we're people who do too much, Jim. And is currently working on a business venture for International Arts and Leadership Alliance project that he plans to launch this coming year. And I just want to welcome everybody, give Jimmy in your own quiet way a warm welcome to talk us through leadership and creativity and how, Jim, tell us how they are inseparable. But first, I'd love for you, sweetheart, to give us a little background of your life to what inspired you and how you became the creative being that you are today.
Thanks, Donna. First of all, I'm so blessed and so grateful to be here with all of you today and to reconnect with at least two other people from my past, musician, corporate colleague, friends, fellow Alaskans, and just beautiful souls. Thank you for inviting me here. I was a little bit of an odd duck. I was a duck out of water growing up because I was the youngest. I'm the youngest of 5 children. I was the only one in my family that was born in Alaska. My parents and my 4 older siblings moved in 1959, the year of statehood, and homesteaded near Homer. And I was born in 1963. And by the age of 4, I was tearing up my grandmother's piano that my mother brought across the Alaskan highway from New Mexico, and just playing by ear and picking out notes and wouldn't leave it alone. And we had 1,560 acres in our homestead that was just open space for me and my dog Ringo to explore and be pirates and slay dragons and go to the creek bottom and paint my face with those colored rocks that you find in Alaska, and make tree forts and hay forts and all kinds, chase porcupines and all kinds of things like that. So my mom was a very outdoors person. So we lived in a 1-room cabin when I was very young. And she insisted that the first thing I did after breakfast was get out of the house and stay out of the house until it was time for dinner. So that was back in the day where you didn't have a neighborhood watch over your children, and there weren't predators other than grizzly bears and wolverines out in the woods. But Edna chased little Jimmy out of the house and then would give a big call when it was time for food. So my creativity knew no bounds. And sometimes my cousins would make the trek from Happy Valley or from Homer and spend a few nights, and I would have extra pirates to hang out with. But by age 4, I was so obsessed with the piano that my mother found me a piano teacher in Homer. And I lasted maybe 2 weeks, and she gave me back to my mom and said, I can't teach him because he won't learn his notes. He wants to play by ear. And that's when this beautiful woman by the name of Mary Epperson came into my life. And her son, Dean Epperson, was the head of the music department, I believe, is still involved in the University of Alaska, Anchorage. Very well-known educator, musician. And Mary Epperson was also recognized by the state of Alaska many times, a real pioneer in the arts in Alaska. And she has since passed away, but she was instrumental in giving my creativity some inertia and some boundaries so that I could better express myself. And from there, I got involved in band and choir, in theater, and any artistic endeavor I could growing up. Was selected for America's Youth in Concert, toured Europe in the middle of high school, did all-state band, all Northwest Region band. I had this obsession of being an actor. I wanted to be on stage. And lived in Japan for a while, came back, and ultimately met my goal of getting accepted to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Pasadena, and then was accepted to their senior program in New York City. And being born and raised in Homer, having that homestead background and a very solid work ethic, know how to cook, know how to clean, know how to sew, know how to hunt, know how to fish, know how to do all those things. But if you were to meet me in the city, you would have no idea that I had that kind of background. I was the kid that dressed differently in high school. I acted differently. I was very gregarious, very outgoing. And just felt like there was someplace else out in the world that I belonged besides Homer, Alaska. And as fate would have it, now at the ripe old age of 58, that many years later, I feel like Homer is the place, always was the place, and is the place where I belong, at least to be rooted and at least to have a home base. And I will still travel the world and do many things, but I have recently in October come full circle back to the place that really originally gave me the latitude to express myself artistically and be accepted in a community that has a lot of background in the arts and a lot of odd ducks that have been attracted to this area. So,
yeah, that is so. That's like such a novel right there. I hope you write that, because I mean, it deserves a screenplay really to think about you with playing with porcupines, running from wolverines and bears, and having your pirate friends coming to visit you. Oh my gosh, you know, just the way you explain that and painting a picture, it makes me feel happy. And I think everybody who's listening to this right now it feels happy. I mean, I see people here smiling and watching you perform while you're talking. And I've started interviewing more and more people, and some, you know, just everybody's just been incredible and has their own dynamic. But when I see, when we express ourselves like you're expressing right now, and you're in the audience and you feel that energy, it's contagious, it's uplifting. And when I think about kind of like these mandates, kind of like how I started this conversation, when they did these budget cuts in school, the first things they cut were the most important things to make us feel this way are the performing arts. Gym, I mean, you know, the exercising. So when I think about what you're doing and what you're working on achieving right now, I'd like you to talk about that a little more, and just what you have seen with the kids that you have worked with outside primarily of the school system, and how that has changed their lives.
Absolutely. I grew up fortunate enough to be able to express my feelings in a way that was accepted, and I could find boundaries, and I could have an outlet. There are so many kids today, and I've worked with youth for over 30 years. I also, by the time I got into high school and people would ask me, what do you want to do with your life? And I would say, well, I want to go to acting school. Here's the problem with our society. There's not a single person in this world that doesn't in some form enjoy the arts, whether it's going to live theater, whether it's listening to their favorite song on the radio, whether it is playing an instrument, whether it's going to the opera, or whether it's just, you know, playing the spoons on the weekend. Everybody enjoys the arts. But God forbid your little Billy or Susie come home and say, Mom and Dad, I want to be an artist. Then it changes the dynamic. Then there's a concern. Well, it's a rough lifestyle. You're probably not going to be successful. What is your real job going to be? What are you going to fall back on? Because creativity is, even in corporate America, is a desired function until it comes time for the P&L or for other competing priorities. And like you said, budget cuts and things like that. Creativity is the desired product, first to be suppressed when there are competing priorities. So I had a desire to perform myself. And over the years in working with youth, that has completely turned around to having a passion to help other kids that were in my situation be able to express emotions in a safe environment. So all of the acting training that I've had has been brick and mortar, inner city, Manhattan, Los Angeles, very structured, inner city type atmosphere. But ironically, what they talk about in actor training is being organic and being in the moment and letting things evolve organically when you're in probably the least organic environment you could possibly be in to study and learn about these things. So in working with youth, I've taken extremely introverted youth with anger issues, because one of the problems, and we're seeing this manifest itself in a very negative way, and it's all of the feelings, it's all of the emotions. And we see adults probably set the worst behavior for dealing with emotions than our youth do. And our youth are looking at the adult example and really just kind of shaking their heads. That's why our millennials and our younger generations are diverting from what the adults feel is appropriate behavior or appropriate action, when the adults don't know how to deal with their feelings or the emotions. So I would tell any audience that would listen to me, I do work with youth for free, what corporate America spends millions and billions of dollars to try to teach their professionals: how to connect, how to collaborate, how to emote, how to deal with emotions, how to negotiate, how to create a win-win situation. And so if we focused on those life skills in a theater arts-based environment where you can safely get into another character, discuss emotions in a safe environment where kids aren't being judged, where all socioeconomic classifications are erased. Every youth group that I've ever brought in, you've had kids from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all socioeconomic, religious, racial, diversity, and all of those differences melt away when you start talking about emotion and you start talking about making choices and strengthening that choice mechanism that's inside all of us. Because what happens in the traditional school environment, in society, out in the environment where we take our children and we socialize, it's not permitted to talk about or deal with emotions other than a surface level. And we're expected to keep ourselves in check. We're expected to mind our P's and Q's. And what has happened? We see complete chaos right now. People are tired of having to hold it all in. They've never been taught how to process emotions, how to make themselves feel good, because happiness is not a destination, it's a choice. Joy, enthusiasm, health is not a destination, it is a choice, and it has to be a daily choice. So there are two things in life that I teach people. There are circumstances and there are experiences. The good example is the businessman that steps out of his office in the city and it's pouring down rain, and he shakes his fist at the heaven and curses God for getting his Italian suit wet. 20 miles away, the farmer comes out of his house and it's raining, and he falls on his knees and he thanks God for the rain for watering his crops. Same circumstances, different experience. So circumstances, I tell these kids, are the things that happen to you every day that you cannot control. Experience is what you choose. Not what's forced on you, not what you feel obliged or obligated, but what you choose to do with those circumstances and how you choose to accept and process them. I won't go into it, but one of my favorite pieces is by Rumi. Rumi's The Guest House. It says, throw the door open wide to every visitor that comes to your door. You may not bring them in and invite them for dinner, but you will open the door and acknowledge that they exist, trying to close the door on them. And these kids, when I have walked them through emotional process and choosing joy, not finding it, but choosing joy and then spreading joy. And we go through physical exercise because everything starts with a feeling. We all have feelings, right? This world and the workplace, you all work in the workplace, right? And the workplace is a beautiful place until people's feelings get involved. And everybody's like, I have hurt feelings, or I'm emotional, or I can't come to work because, I'm incapacitated. And all those things are real. Depression is real. Anxiety is real. But unless you know how to process that, and it starts with a feeling. And then we either let that feeling, I work through exercises of letting that feeling then go into the physical, and not any auditory sounds. First it's a feeling, and then it creates an emotion, and then it goes through your entire body until your body feels that emotion, whether it's rage or euphoria or terror or what, one of the 4 primary emotions. And then the very last thing that happens after movement is vocal. How do you vocally express? And until you as a human being have been able to process emotion to the fullest extent of your physical and vocal ability, how can you then bring it down to a controllable element and, walk through society without experiencing depression and anxiety and all of those things? So, but we don't teach that in school.
Right. I mean, amen, 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 amen. And why, what do you think is at the crux of that? And I know, Robin, you and I could get into a deep dive about that, but what is this mandate or this manipulation thing doing to our children? And how, what you are doing, and how can we in our own communities and in our own relationships break this mandate over us that you can show your emotions? I mean, mandate's this big word out there now. And how do we, well, you're doing it, but how can you empower and encourage all of us? Because some people probably who are listening to this are in a funk. They're listening to you and they're going, oh, I want what he has. How do I do this? How can I do this in my community? How can I do this with my kids, my family? I'll just take some more pills.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I recently posted on social media my own battle with depression. It's not anywhere near clinical depression or anything like that, and part of it I blame on moving back to Alaska, where the sun doesn't come up until 9 a.m. and it's cold outside and it's very comfortable in your bed. But I suffer, very similar to an interview I heard with Jerry Seinfeld a couple of years ago. I suffer from early morning daylight depression. Those first waking moments, I feel like the weight of the world is coming down on me, and how can I possibly, manage and face everything that is on my plate, emotionally, physically, and all of that. But I get up. I listen to several different mentors. I have several different processes that I go through. And once I'm up and I brush my teeth and I get myself going, I make choices. And this is where we have to honor that mechanism, which I think is the number one mechanism that we're here on earth for. Regardless of your religious background, regardless of your political, socioeconomic background, the ability to make a choice is no different than exercising a bicep or a tricep or any muscle on your body. When you don't exercise a muscle, what happens to it? Weakens and ultimately will atrophy, where you can no longer have use of that muscle. It starts with the smallest of choices. What do I want to eat today? What do I want to wear today? Where do you want to go? Well, I don't know, you choose. And I'm not suggesting that we force our opinions or decisions, but we need to have the ability to choose for ourselves, because there is this fallacy that, and I grew up in a very staunch religious background, and I've come a long ways since those early days. And there's a lot of misguided programming that happens. And I'm not here to talk negative about organized religion or anything like that. Or I don't want to get into any political, but this whole concept of choices. When you can make small choices, it strengthens your ability to make larger choices. And it is so important for everyone to realize that unless you make a bad choice and experience failure, you will never succeed and have and experience joy and success.
Yeah, you don't have those levels.
You cannot have joy and euphoria without experiencing terror and despair. And the greater extensions that we go to that, the greater each experience becomes. That's why the greater we love, the harder we hurt when we experience the opposite. But unless we learn how to channel and stop categorizing everything, because we have to determine if it's right or left, if it's good or bad, if it's up or down. We have to put everything in a box. That's what our society is doing. We're categorizing everything so we can determine, does it align with us or does it not align with us? And let me tell you, everything is meant to align with us. We are to experience everything. Go back and read Rumi's The Guest House. Everything is for our good, and we have to stop. Now, obviously, there are rules, there are laws, there are human behavioral things. We can't just go out and kill someone. We can't just go out and badmouth someone. There are consequences to, unsavory actions. But unfortunately, we see in society that people's opinions and these mandates and this seemingly well-guided desire to help people make better decisions is taking away our ability to grow ourselves. If we don't allow people to make decisions and to experience the consequences of those decisions, then we just become cogs in the wheel. We lose our creativity, we lose our freedom. There's this whole freedom sometimes is a bad word, because suddenly if you say the word freedom, then you're aligned with this extreme. Or if you say the word comply, you're aligned with this extreme. And again, we're categorizing things so that we can determine if it aligns with us or not. And I teach kids, we are all aligned together. First, let's find what we have in common. We're living human beings on Mother Earth. We have hearts that pump blood. We have eyes that shed tears. We have hearts that break and leap for joy when we see those we love. But yet we want to focus on what differentiates us. We're making choices without being mindful of the consequences. And let me just read you, this is from my, just really quick, on what you led off with, why creativity and leadership are inseparable. When people in positions of power, now just when I read these words, think of how it connects to everything in our lives, religious, political, social, racial, everything. When people in positions of power tap into their creative space and draw upon their artistry to connect with people, they create influence, foster inspiration, and embody true leadership instead of simply operating as someone with a title. When you look at our leaders out in the world today, are they coming from a creative space or are they a talking head with a title? Likewise, when artists are fully present, Janie, you're an artist. Every one of you are an artist in some way. Likewise, when artists are fully present, connect to those around them in an organic manner and speak their truth. They lead their audience to want to examine themselves in a new and meaningful way. Likewise, creating influence, fostering inspiration, and embodying true leadership. How many of you have ever been at a concert or a live theater and you have been moved to tears or moved to laughter, or the emotion has erupted within you and you were just caught up in the moment and you were inspired and you felt? It's because the person on stage connected with their artistry and they felt that emotion, and that translated to the audience, and you were one in that experience. What would it be like if our world leaders and our civic leaders and our educational leaders came from a creative environment and tapped into their feelings so that they could feel something that you would feel? I watch the TV now and I feel jack crap. Yes. Because they're not coming from a living, emotional, rooted tree in the environment. They're coming from a place of control and fear and misguided emotion.
Yeah, you guys.
So it is. Yes. That is why my passion. That is why for the rest of my life, until I take my last breath, I will continue to work on this concept of fostering these life skills and leadership concepts for our youth. And I'll take as many adults as will come on board, because it's never too late. There are people in their 80s and 90s that finally drink grape juice and start being creative and speak their truth.
Oh, Jimmy, that is so powerful. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing that and bringing us to Rumi too, because he is one of my beautiful guides. And just for everybody, I know you guys are all feeling the love from Jimmy. It's so much energy, and in what we're doing here is building our immune systems just by hearing positivity, just by feeling this love, and from somebody who got his beautiful karma from painting colored rocks on his face and touching the earth and knowing what is really important to life. And if people feel good, they're going to not only take care of themselves, they're going to take care of others, and then in turn take care of the immune system of the earth, which is nourishing all of our future generation, for our children, for future generations. I really appreciate that. And something, I'm feeling like I have to keep up with your energy right now, because I got it. You guys, some of you have seen me on the dance floor, and sometimes I got to hold back because I want to see my guests shine. But I am the CEO of all my businesses. And you know what CEO stands for? Creative, enthusiastic, optimist. Yes. That's who Mama Donna is. That's who Donna is. That's what a CEO is supposed to be. And that sums up that amazing deliverance that you just shared with us. And do you remember? I know you do. We had Donna, this is stamped in my mind, in 1989 on stage in a red pair of long johns, doing a dance in Homer's Homegrown, a tribute to Alaska, a tribute to Homer. Donna, I've seen you in action, and you are one of the most passionate, optimistic, enthusiastic person I know. And you have been to hell and back in your life in so many areas. But it's like nerves. I tell kids before they go on stage or before they speak at anything, I say, if you don't feel those nerves or those butterflies and stuff, then you're not engaged. If you feel nervous, then that means you've got some skin in the game, and you've got something that you can then work with. You've got yeast in your bread, and you can really knead that and organize it into something beautiful. But kids aren't taught what to do with fear and emotion. They're just taught to suppress it. Kids are to be seen and not heard, and you better quit acting out and quit talking back and quit doing all this stuff. And they just need to be heard and know how to process. And the thing that's the crux of all of that is every single person who is listening to this was a child. And every single one of us can relate to this. Speak when you're spoken to. Put on the dunce cap, sit in the corner because you spoke out of line. And I know for me, I am dyslexic, and I was probably, still am, ADHD, given these titles when really all I was and choosing to be was a CEO, a creative, enthusiastic optimist, whether it was in the gym or whether it was in math class, let's have fun, right? And you're like, and we get this conditioning, again, mandates. I mean, I'm just bringing everything relevant to what's happening, and that the crux of this conversation is leadership and creativity and how they're inseparable. And how do we do it when we are told to do this, don't do that, can't you read the signs? How do we do this, Jimmy, when, and I know you're doing it, but we all hit that stop. We all get that break, And I'd like to hear, you give some suggestions, and then I would love to give some suggestions to everybody too, because I have some ideas around this. But what can you give people some real good, juicy takeaway stuff that they can do when they get up in the morning, if they feel that sad syndrome like you were explaining, and you gave a few examples, listening to some inspiring people, but we got people from all over the world listening to this right now. And so everybody's got something going on. So give us some real good, juicy stuff to take away from this.
Absolutely. One of the first things, I always look for mentors and I always look for things that work. And I love social media when it's used properly. And I love Mel Robbins and I love her 5-second program, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 program. And some of you might be familiar with that. But for me, I was labeled as a procrastinator or a self-labeled procrastinator. And so listening to Mel Robbins and adapting her 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method was really instrumental in helping me to launch in the morning and get out of that morning funk. Because once my feet are on the ground, but I tell one thing that the first thing you do when you wake up, before you take a pee, before you do your clothes, before you do any decision, the first decision you make is you pick out your attitude. You go to the attitude closet and you decide what kind of a day you're going to have. And then you don't let anyone rent space in your head for free. You either charge rent or you kick the squatters out, because no one deserves to be in your head for free. They're either going to pay or they're leaving. And so recognize that everyone you encounter is not an enemy. They're in your path for a reason. And and you've heard this analogy a million times, when you're riding an aircraft and they do the safety brief, why do they tell you to put on your oxygen mask first? Here's what you have to understand. We have been really well trained and versed in training other people how to change their behavior so we'll be happy. You have to first understand that my happiness is only up to me and no one else. My spouse is not responsible for my happiness. My boss is not responsible for my happiness. No effing person on the planet is responsible for our happiness but us. So that's the first choice you make in the morning. Am I going to be happy today? Who wakes up and thinks, I refuse to be happy today? But the problem is that we hope or we wish or we pray or we hope to God that somehow happiness, we're going to stumble across financial, physical, emotional, spiritual happiness somehow. But we're not going to stumble across anything until we choose happiness. So we have to choose happiness, and then we have to understand that those choices go throughout the day. So every time we think, oh, someone is affecting me, you are offended only because you have chosen and allowed yourself to be offended. I don't care what the other person does or said. It may be abhorrent. It may be illegal, but you are only offended if you choose to be offended. You may not accept bad behavior. You may not want to accept words and things to you, so you make a choice to separate. But we too easily take offense, and then we expect. It's like you've performed weddings, right, Donna?
Yes. 100
I've performed some weddings too. And I tell the couple, I sit down because you want to talk with them before they engage in this very important decision. And I tell couples, I say, traditional wedding vows are all wrong, because we make this vow to honor and love and put on a pedestal and cook and clean and do all these beautiful things so that they're going to be the prince or the princess, and we're going to promise to do all these beautiful things for this person. That's bullshit. There should be one vow, and it should be, I promise to be the very best version of myself that I possibly can. So I will remain the confident, strong person that you agreed to marry, and I will be here for you when you need me most. My wife said yes to me when I didn't have a pot to piss in. I was fresh out of acting school. I didn't have a job, and she knew I wanted to be an actor, and she still was stupid enough to say, yes, I'll marry you.
Yay!
And then the problem that happened with me, the bad choice I made, was then thinking I had to change my behavior to make her happy. Then suddenly what happened is I became a different person than she said yes to. And I was doing it what I thought for her. As human beings, we adjust our behavior because of how we think we're going to be perceived or how we're going to be accepted. So if we can acknowledge that we are in charge of ourselves, we have to put on our oxygen mask first. We have to choose joy first. Then if we're the best version of ourselves, physically, mentally, spiritually, and we work on ourselves, it's not narcissistic, it's self-care. Then we will, and all these influencers, I love social media, I love Instagram, but I don't look for an audience. I go out and be me because I know my audience will find me, whether it's one person or a million person. I cannot worry about who's looking for me. or who I'm going to reach or who I'm going to influence. That's misguided. You have to just focus on being you, speaking your truth, being the best version of yourself. And whoever you're meant to connect with, just like we're connected today, this was meant to happen. We're here for a reason. The universe has brought us together because we're trying to be the best version of ourselves possible. And you are a guiding light in that journey, Donna. And we're all trying to be that best version, and we'll connect with the people we're meant to connect with. We overthink and we worry. Worry is toxic. Worry is our enemy.
It's the law of attraction and that magnetic force. And when you allow that to happen, I mean, you can see it in the animal instincts. You see it when animals meet each other for the first time. They're either going to go for the jugular or go for the butt. And when they go for the butt and they sniff each other, there's no problem. They're really getting to know each other. They're not all caught up in the heady stuff. They really want to know what's inside. They really want to connect. And that's that law of attraction that we have been conditioned to think that that's not possible, but it is possible. It's more possible than we have that sixth sense, that we have more than six senses, but we're told we have five.
But you know, Donna, we have to be kind. I don't care how different of an opinion I have from someone else. We have to understand we're all on this journey to experience. Absolutely. Now, you know, and I separate myself from people with just toxic, negative energy that aren't open to learning. And then I love beautiful conversations with people who are at polar opposites of me in views, but we can sit down and practice kindness and acceptance and tolerance and learn. We're never too old to learn, and we're kidding ourselves if we think we've ever arrived. I hate the word retirement. That's why I love, why retire when you can inspire? Retire is, what is that?
What is that?
What is retire? We never retire, not even when we're put in the ground, because then we're compost and we fertilize the earth. We're constantly adding something.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. Yes, why retire when we can all inspire? And I think everybody on that call is doing that. And Beverly, you talked about thin skin in here, and I just want to say that your skin sheds every single day. And we can choose to have thicker skin by how we care for ourselves. What we put in our body and we put in our minds is going to help thicken our skin. So that takes care of that. Beverly, you got this. And Jimmy, you said something, lots of things, but to the word compost, I have a saying: compost what doesn't serve you, and nurture what does. And I remember you were wanting and needing. This was like 10 years ago. And my coaching practice at the time was, it's your choice to change. And you have no idea how proud I am, how many times you've chosen to use and choose and chosen to share your wisdom and your passion and your inspiration with us today. And that is the choice that we all get to make. At least anybody, especially who is listening to this, no matter where you are in the world, you have the ability to turn on your computer or listen through your phone. You are privileged enough to do that, to make a choice. And if you read my articles last week, I wrote a really beautiful piece, and one of the sections in it was, we have these doors. And we can look at, like looking behind me, I got glass doors. Some people have wooden doors. Some people have metal doors. Some people have so many layers of doors and locks on their doors. And it's up to us to unlock that door, to keep it ajar at all times, or to keep it wide open. And it takes courage. Go ahead. I would just want to finish it. It takes that courage to realize that we have the choice. Only we can make up our minds to open that door, walk out. And sometimes the choice is to walk away. And sometimes it's a choice that, hey, I can open these doors every day. I can feed the birds. I can do whatever I'm choosing to do today, because you said the word kindness, which is one of my favorite words in the world. Kindness, love, caring, compassion. I choose that. I choose to open those doors. There's the positivity door and the negativity door. But Psychology US Today and all of these journals, because I'm doing a dose of positivity every week, right? And I'm reading about this. Why are people so drawn to negative thoughts? even Shakespeare, because performing arts, people love Shakespeare because people die at the end. There's a certain endorphin that comes off with fear, this fear that we're all experiencing.
Because it's been taboo.
It's been taboo. Speak to that. What has been taboo?
Yes. It's
Feel
like
good?
saying, don't cry, don't be afraid, don't, or if you're in a religious environment, don't have sex, don't do all these negative things. We create these societal no-nos. And so we grow up, and it's like, the more we're in a bubble, the more we want to experience fear. I remember being sheltered as a young kid and getting to see Friday the 13th, this horrific slasher movie, and I was just mesmerized and terrorized to death. But it just fed all of this, this emotion and energy. And we love to be scared, and we love to be shocked, and we love to, because we haven't been able to process that. I love this comment. I forgot that there's a chat here, and I suddenly opened it up, and I love this comment. It says, doesn't creativity come from personal interaction? And I don't want to leave today without giving my 2 cents about personal interaction. And I think when we talk about mandates, and I don't want to get into, because I want to give peace to everyone's place where they are in this endemic process. But I'll tell you one thing, as sacred as choice is, it's equally as sacred the human physical connection. Being able to see and touch and feel. Just like if you don't go out and touch and put your hands in the dirt, you won't feel the energy of Mother Earth. Unless you give somebody a hug, or you look someone in the eye and tell them you love them, or you express your emotions face to face or physically, and anything that suppresses our ability to choose and our ability to interact face to face, in my opinion, threatens our creative and our leadership evolution.
So right on. And that's like just changing the language, choosing instead of wanting and needing and having got to. And when you look at if like how I opened up, if we mandated that we build our immune system, if it was mandated that every day we went out and we hugged at least 15 people, because I know scientifically that is what brings your endorphin levels to where they need to be to just feel that love. If they mandated that the words that come out of our mouths were kind, or we didn't say anything. Like Melissa said, attitude is everything. Pick a good one and have gratitude. Whoa, what if that was a mandate? And we're looking at things all upside down. It's like the pyramid is in the wrong direction, and it's up to us to shift that consciousness each and every day and have those I want to just say, it's a brain fart that's happening right now for all of us. This is like, whoa, somebody gave me permission to be creative, to be myself. Somebody's telling me that this is what I have to do every day. I have to be kind. I have to be loving and compassionate every day. Could you imagine what a different world we would be living in? And that just bringing this all back to theater and to theater camp and teaching children this in the classroom. And Johnny doesn't know how to spell. Let's hear it for Johnny, because that means he's going to pull out his guitar and he's going to sing us a song, because it's something Johnny can do. Take it away. Yeah.
Just remember, the word mandate is very dangerous, because I love the concept. Wouldn't it? It would be wonderful if you're going to talk mandates. If we have to have mandates, then let's mandate kindness. Let's mandate, good things. But again, mandate is that very pernicious word that takes away the person's ability to choose and learn and grow and adjust and course correct and get back on track. Because anytime anything, it's just as dangerous to mandate kindness as it is to mandate anger. When anything is mandated, now you could open up a whole can of worms on health and all, I'm speaking on a high level here, because we've attached ourselves to certain words, and some people are very attached to mandate because there is a fear of, the pandemic. At the same time, we go back to with the right parameters, fostering creativity and the ability to choose. And the reason that we have to do mandates is because we have not been taught how to deal with and process our emotions. And then they explode and they turn into very dangerous opinions and emotions and actions and results that are deadly.
And I agree with you so much on what you're saying. And the reason why I keep coming back to that word is because it has become...
It's in our society.
In our society so much, and it's controlling people's emotions in such a way that 50% of people are on antidepressants, drugs. The pharmaceuticals are making so much money off of that word. And they're using it in the context of negativity instead of just saying, hey, this is what happens when you're sick, or this is what happens, and explaining it. It's like when I raised our son, I made a commitment after seeing a horrific event while I was pregnant in the airport, where this woman, she was telling her kid, no, you can't do that. No. And it was just like, and I'm pregnant with my son. And I said, I am never saying no to, and now my son is 30 and he will tell you, I never said no. No, it's like a mandate. No, you talk about it. It's logical. Let's express why we are doing these things. Let's have a greater understanding what it means. Let's educate people about these situations. That is where no mandate are kind of like, ugh, like, and you know, it's okay to say no. I'd rather not do this right now, or I might consider it. But when you're told no, or when you're a no person, there's no creativity in that. Take that 2 letters and turn it into a, well, it's because of this, and this is what could happen if we do it this way, perhaps. And then, whoa, a light bulb goes off. So let's think of creative ways that we can get through this time period, because if you've all read my book, Conscious Cure, Solutions to 21st Century Pandemics, you know, I did a huge amount of research in that book. And this pandemic is one of a long drawn out one that's now turned into an epidemic that's going to roll into another pandemic. Unless we get all of these other human-made political, economic, environmental pandemics, inequality, unless we take care of these underlying issues, which has to do with everything this conversation is about. Leadership and creativity has been taken out of these systems, these human systems. And Jimmy, you worked in the corporate world. Robin, you worked in the corporate world. Probably a lot of people who are listening to this call have been or are in the corporate world. Freedom lies on the other side of fear. And we're looking for social and environmental justice. And when we are looking to truly transform the world, you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So bringing theater back into the school systems like Jimmy's doing. Some of you are doing, I'm sure, incredible things who would love right now to express, but we've run out of time. But I just want to encourage everybody to, Jimmy, you'll please put your website in the link here, and we'll put it on the YouTube channel, and we'll also put it on our podcast station. You guys, all the reruns for all these calls are now available to everybody, and we're starting to get some real momentum in a dose of positivity. Just think of that word, a spoonful of sugar, a dose of positivity, a dose of kindness, a dose of what are we taking in? What is that dose that, like Jimmy was talking about earlier, it's a choice what we put in here. What's the dose? What's the size of the dose that's right for you, that's natural, that's healing, that's going to help and foster future generations to look at you and say, wow, that person inspired me. That person motivated me. That person helped, like you talked about Mary Epperson at the beginning of this call. Who's that one person? Maybe it's Jimmy today. Who's that one person who got you up and Adam to say, yes, this is my time? Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. Like Jimmy said, it doesn't matter which social economic bracket you're in. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Look at so many people out there who have come from obscure places of nothing. Jimmy playing by himself with the beavers by the creek, painting his face with rocks. Jimmy, I just want to thank you so much for firing me up. And I think everybody else on here would agree. And I would love to, in closing, if you could just share any other closing remarks that you have for people, anybody who might be feeling like, wow, where can I turn? Giving people suggestions right now in their daily lives, maybe it's getting involved in their local theater, whatever it is, just take us home, baby, take us home.
Number one, practice self-care. The greatest thing that anybody will ever say to you is what you say about yourself. The greatest thing anyone will ever say about you is what you say about yourself. Imagine if everyone could read your thoughts when you walked into a room, yet everything you think about yourself goes right into your DNA immediately. Body and your soul hear and feel and process everything you think about yourself. So be kind to yourself. Speak kindly about yourself. Hug yourself. Love yourself. Go back to Mel Robbins too, and the high five, or whatever it is. But be kind to yourself and practice self-care. And then get involved in the life of a child, whether it's your own, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a relative, whether it's someone in the community, Boys and Girls Club, local theater. If your community has a local community theater, support them in some way, either monetarily or volunteerism or youth group programs or anything like that. Model the behavior that you wish to see in others. So many people expect someone to change, but everyone's behavior, when you experience someone's behavior, it's a reflection of what's going on with you. So model the behavior that you wish to see in others and see the wonderful change that will take place. Those are the three basic things that I would impart to you today that I've experienced in my own life, is learn how to better self-care, learn how to, get involved in the life of a child, and find, share, and deal with your emotions. Have foxhole friends. Have at least 2 or 3 foxhole friends that when the shit hits the fan, they're the ones you want in your foxhole, that you can say and be and do anything. Have 2 or 3 foxhole friends in your life, and just realize that this life is so short and we're here to experience joy. But we get to choose it. We don't have to find it. We just have to choose it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jimmy Anderson.
I'm so honored. Thank you, Donna. I love you.
I love you so much. This was amazing. And for anybody who wants to stay on, Tell's going to be putting a few more links in the chat, and you can download the links. But we're going to end the recording now. And Jimmy, I can't wait to have you back on. I hope you'll read all the nice comments that people have said. And if anybody has any last words or anything that they'd like to do a shout out for Jimmy, and then we're going to do a little garden tour for everybody. And Jimmy, actually, maybe you could get out and show us Homer, Alaska real quick. Stand up.
I'll just really quick. I've got to sign off here in a second. I wanted to give a quick shout out to, hang on.
Yes. My kids are in Homer right now.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, here we go. It's out on the deck.
Where I used to live, you guys.
You're out on the.
That's right on the spit, right on the deck at Land's End.
I was gonna say you're on the spit. Oh, nice.
You guys, that's what I used to look out. Now I look out here. So I just want to thank everybody for coming on to A Dose of Positivity today. And so much love to you all for all your beautiful comments. And we're going to...
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Jim. Very inspirational. I absolutely love this hour.
Thank you.
Thank you. Say hi to Homeroids for me.
I will. Love you all.
Good to see you.
Bye, Jimmy. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Talk to you soon.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Love you all so much.
and I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Okay.
Thanks, Donna. I love you too.
Love you too. Bye.